What's up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hooked on Sports here on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn, and thank you so very much for listening or watching today's episode. So today is Thursday, December 18th. We are at the start of Week 16 of the NFL season, so as per usual, I'm going to be talking about a few games that I'll be keeping my eyes on throughout the course of the week. So, remember you can follow this podcast on X and on Instagram at hooked_on sports. You can follow me on X or formerly Twitter at JohnFlynn97. You can and on Instagram at Jay Flizzy, as well as the Facebook page on that. So there are 3 weeks left in the NFL season. We have several games with huge playoff implications that I will be that I'll be talking about in length before we get into the picks for the upcoming week. So I want to start with the ball game coming up tonight between the Rams and the Seahawks in Seattle. And it is a monster game. The winner of this game will take firm control of the NFC West. Both teams are 11-3. The Rams have a chance to really put themselves on the brink of an NFC West title with a doubleheader sweep. And I think we got to look at a couple of things that I'll be looking at tonight when it comes to this ball game. I'm going to be looking at 2 things. One, Matthew Stafford putting together an MVP caliber season against the Seattle's stingy defense. Coach and Matthew Stafford, I think is right now the leader for league MVP. He's been playing at such a high level for consistently for much of the year, and I think it's going to be important for the Seahawks to be able to do things to get Matthew Stafford off his game, and they did that in the game between the 2 teams a couple of weeks ago. So where the Rams were struggled to get over 300 yards of offense in that game. So which kind of leads me to think of how big the Davante Adams hamstring injury is, because Davante Adams at this point comes into the game as doubtful to play because of the hamstring injury. So can the Seahawks take advantage of not having maybe arguably the best number 2 receiver in the NFL? If he's not the best, definitely up there. Will they be able to take advantage of it? And can the Seahawks get towards the quarterbacks? I think that's going to be a huge thing there. For the Seahawks to win important plays defensively that could determine who wins or loses the ball game coming up tonight. So I'm looking at that defensively. And then when you're looking at the Seahawks defense against the Seahawks offense against the Rams defense, I'm going to be looking at how the skill position players fare up against the opposition. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think that the Rams are going to have to key in on slowing him down. And try and force another receiver from Seattle to step up, like Rashid Shaheed among others. So it's going to be key on someone like Kobe Durant of the Rams to be able to cover him well and prevent him from making making big catches in the ball game tonight. And then the Rams' run defense against the running back duo of Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III. So in order for Sam Darnold to not have the 4 interception game he had last time, that those two key players are going to play a pivotal role in determining who will control the line of scrimmage between the Seahawks offensive line against the Rams defensive line. So I'm gonna be looking at that. I think and I think the Rams also need to be able to offensively need to be able to convert in the red zone, because they've been doing it so well the entire year, and they're going to have to be able to do that tonight in order to give themselves the best chance to defeat the Seattle Seahawks tonight. So monster game tonight, one of the more anticipated, maybe the most anticipated Thursday night game of the Amazon Prime TNF era, and I think it's going to be a terrific ball game coming up tonight between those two teams. Now, NFC South supremacy is going to be on the line on Sunday between the Bucs and the Panthers, and this has been an underwhelming division, to say the least, and not to say that we kind of anticipated how bad this division was going to be. With these two teams at 7-7, the minus point differentials between the two teams, and then you got the Atlanta Falcons at 5-10. The Saints but playing better recently, but they're 4-10, and they're both out of it. So it is a big game for both teams, but it's especially a big game for Carolina, because if Carolina wins this game coming up on Sunday, it's gonna both teams are gonna have like a 50-50 shot to make the playoffs on the odds makers the networks, because the two teams see each other this week on Sunday. They see each other week 18, and then week 17, Carolina is home against Seattle. That's going to be a difficult matchup, and one I think Seattle should be able to win. And then Tampa is going to be home against the Miami Dolphins in week 17, who had just benched Tua Tagovailoa, who just got eliminated from postseason contention, and are starting Quinn Ewers in their game on Sunday coming up against the Cincinnati Bengals. So monster game coming up for the Bucs and the Panthers. Baker Mayfield is 5-0 in his career against Carolina. So it's that Baker Mayfield at one point was a Carolina Panther before after his time with the Cleveland Browns, and so I think you're looking at that to be a big deal. So and I think the Panthers receiving core outside of Tedavor McMillan is really gonna have to step up in the ball game coming up on Sunday. So and it's also gonna be another test for Tampa Bay's pass defense, or defense overall as well, because the Bucs have had trouble stopping the run recently, because they had a big day let up against Bijan Robinson last week on Thursday Night Football, and then you look on the other side, where the with Mike Evans against J.C. Horn. That's going to be a monster matchup, and it was clear looking at the first the majority of that Bucs Falcons game how important Mike Evans is to that offense, because the Buccaneers are up 28-14 at one point in that game, and Mike Evans was the big reason why, and his return was such a massive deal, and why I made such a massive deal out of it on the show last week. So I'll be looking at that, and then Derek Brown, it might be who's the most important player on Carolina's defense. Can Tampa's guards and center be able to hold him in check? If that's going to be the case, that's going to make it a lot easier for them to um, a lot easier for Baker Mayfield to negotiate the pocket and find guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in the middle of the field. So, monster game for Carolina, monster game for Tampa. And I think the most maybe the most interesting game that's not going to be talked about much. I think it is the matchup between Jacksonville and Denver. Monster game for both teams. Because these two teams are in first place in their respective divisions, these are going to be such a riveting chess match between these two teams. But both of them have outstanding run defenses. They come in as the number one and number two rush defenses in the NFL. And the Jaguars are second in the NFL in takeaways, and the Broncos are at the top of the league in sacks. So it's going to be a grudge match between these two well-coached defenses in order to win here. So I also, so with that being the canvas of the matchup, it's really going to boil down to Trevor Lawrence against Bo Nix, and both of these quarterbacks had some questions going into the season, and I think you look at look at a high-powered offense now in Jacksonville with the sudden resurrection of Travis Etienne's career. So, and Etienne was neutered his last couple of years under Doug Peterson. Now he's got his confidence and swagger back and looks much more efficient for the Jaguars. And he's been important to their success. And then you look at Jacoby Myers. I think Jacoby Myers was acquired for a game such as this, trying to match up against Denver's defensive backs. So we will see how big that's going to be, and so protecting the football is going to be key here for both these quarterbacks. And I think whoever wins the turnover battle is going to wind up winning the game between the two teams coming up on Sunday. So so I think that's going to be a big thing there. And then can the Broncos' elite pass rush break through against a strong offensive line for the Jacksonville Jaguars? If whoever wins, and I think whoever wins the line of scrimmage and whoever protects the football better is going to wind up winning that game, and I think it's going to be as simple as that. And then finally, the big game that I'm going to be a big game that I'll be keeping my eyes on is the Sunday night game between the Baltimore Ravens and the New England Patriots. And I think that's going to be a monster game as well, because if the Steelers wind up losing to the Lions, and I think that's a real possibility, that this will be a chance for the Ravens to be able to get even with the Steelers in the division, and then that means the Week 17 matchups won't mean much, because the two teams finished up the season in Pittsburgh in Week 18 with a shot with all the marbles on the line for winning the division and making the playoffs. So I'll be looking at a couple of things here for the Patriots. I'm looking at Drake May against Zach Orr's cover one defense. So he's been doing a good job diagnosing this type of defense for most of the year. That's the reason why he is number 2 or number 3 on the MVP odds right now in the NFL. So I think the Patriots, he's going to need guys like Stephon Diggs, and Kayshon Boutte to be able to step up and make some plays in Baltimore's backfield. So we're gonna be looking at that. I'm also gonna be looking at the as Baltimore's defensive line to be able to go out and try and try and neutralize the Patriots here. So if the Patriots are able, if the Ravens are able to stop the run, that's going to mean that Drake May is going to have to win the game with his arm. He's been doing that all year, but I think you look at what might happen on the opposite side of the spectrum, and that is the running attack of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry against the Patriots' run defense, and the Patriots' run defense has actually been pretty strong all year. However, their defense is not built to stop quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, because we saw that in the second half against Josh Allen and the Bills last week, where it became a problem when you have when you have that dual threat from a quarterback, and the thing with Lamar Jackson is his hamstring going to be 100% in this one, because he's been getting better. And he's been feeling better over the last couple of weeks. Now it's really go time and trying to get that and trying to get his body into peak form for this crucial stretch of games coming up for the Baltimore Ravens. So if the Ravens can demonstrate the consistency, more of a consistency, it's because they have just lost back-to-back home games to division rivals in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Now I think it's important for the Ravens to take advantage of their home field. So the Ravens are actually a 3-point favorite in this game, despite being 4 wins worse than New England. So. And the Patriots kind of came off as kind of fraudulent on last week because the Patriots were 11-2, but I didn't think they were as good as the record indicates. Now they lost at home to the Bills. Now they have a tough matchup on the road against Baltimore. We are going to see how good this Patriots team really is, because look, chances are they might, if they win a couple playoff games, they'll have to go on the road on Championship Sunday to take on the Denver Broncos here, and I think that's going to be a monster a monster type of thing for the New England Patriots to have. So this game was flexed into Sunday night after the Bengals and Dolphins were eliminated from postseason contention. So without any further ado, let us get into our picks for Week 16 of the NFL season. So last week I went 7-9. I 107-117 overall in the season against the spread. And then straight up, I went 11-5 last week. So my record straight up is 143-80-1 there. So let's get to my picks. We got the Seattle Seahawks. They are favored by 1.5 points, taking on the LA Rams. And I think this is going to be a great game here, but I kind of leaning towards picking the Rams in this one, because I think the Rams are the better team. I think they have the better coach. I think they have the better quarterback here. So, and Seattle is such a well-built roster So with playmakers all around on the roster, but I think it boils down to this. I think the Rams match up well against Sam Darnold, and this is a big game for Sam Darnold, and Darnold has traditionally come up short in big games. So this is a big game. So I'm going to take the Rams. I think this is going to be a game where, so it's where Matthew Stafford is going to air it out. I think Puka Nacua. I think he's going to have a monster evening in the Great Northwest on tonight. So I'm going Rams 26-24 over the Seattle Seahawks coming up tonight. In Seattle, dealing a big blow to the Seahawks' chances of winning the division and getting the 1 seed in the NFC. All right, so now we got a couple of games coming up on Saturday, a Fox doubleheader. We got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. We got the Eagles favored by 6.5 points, and look, I think Philadelphia got something back on Sunday against the Raiders, and yes, it is the Raiders, but I think the Eagles are really starting to get things into gear now. That the Eagles are, I think, with their schedule, they'll wind up winning the division. I think they're going to cement it coming up tonight. It is going to be an interesting game. To say the least, and Washington has traditionally played Philadelphia tough, especially when the two sides meet at home. So I'm gonna grab the points with the Commanders here because I think Mariota is a decent quarterback, but I'm going to pick the Eagles. I have them winning this game by a score of 28-25, 28-24, and I think they're going to wind up clinching the NFC East coming up tonight on Saturday night in Landover, Maryland. So Eagles win, Commanders cover. Now the Chicago Bears are favored by 1.5 points, taking on the Green Bay Packers. This is also going to be a tremendous sporting event, but I'm going to pick the Chicago Bears to win. I think they're going to cover. Green Bay, without Micah Parsons and without Christian Watson, their most indispensable offensive and defensive players both got hurt in a few minutes span in the Denver game, and the Packers just completely collapsed after that. It was an emotionally bad road loss for Green Bay. I think Chicago. I thought they played a good game on the road against Green Bay a couple of weeks ago. That it needed to be better, but now the two sides are meeting up in Chicago. I think this is one where the Chicago Bears are gonna find a way to win this game. So Bears are favored. I think they're gonna win and cover. I've got Chicago winning by a final score of 30-23 over the Green Bay Packers on Saturday night in Chicago. It is another key game, by the way, that I just couldn't get that into the podcast today. Now, the game on Sunday, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, favored by 3 points on the road, taking on the Carolina Panthers. And look, I don't think I remember I told you last week Carolina was not as good as their record indicates, and how they lost that game is that aided by that late hit on Tyler Shuck. That was some with Carolina having the opportunity to put themselves in firm position of the NFC South, and they just were not able to get it done. And I told you they were going to fall flat on their face. And I just think Tampa is a better team. I think they have the quarterback advantage. I think they have the receiver advantage. I think I think they have the better defense. So I'm going to take the Bucs to win 23-16 over the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. The Buffalo Bills are favored by 10 points on the road, taking on the Cleveland Browns. So I'm going to pick the Bills. I think they're going to win. This is the best bet of the week. I think Josh Allen's going to have another big game, 300 yards, total yards, 3 total touchdowns. I think Cleveland is cooked. I think Shedeur Sanders is already fried. So giving the Bills to win 31-12 over the Cleveland Browns coming up on Sunday. Now we got the Dallas Cowboys and the LA Chargers. The Cowboys are favored by 2.5 points taking on the Chargers. And this is an interesting matchup between these two teams, and the Chargers are still looking at their possibilities of making the playoffs, but I just think that as good as Dak Prescott has been, I'm gonna take actually gonna take the team with the better head coach and the better quarterback. So give me the Chargers to march into or go into Dallas and beat the Cowboys here. So I'm gonna pick them to win by a score of 24-23. On Sunday in Big D, and I was tempted to pick the Cowboys because I thought the Chargers win was spoke more about Kansas City's collapse. So I'm gonna but I still think with the coaching and the quarterback play, Justin Herbert is a dark horse candidate for league MVP. I think he's going to appear on some votes for that. So I'm going to pick the Chargers to win the game outright, 24-23 over the Dallas Cowboys. So we got that game. We got next game. The Cincinnati Bengals are favored by 4.5 points, going into Miami to take on Quinn Ewers and the Miami Dolphins, and the Dolphins made some big news on Sunday on yesterday, when they announced the decision to bench Tua Tagovailoa. And this was originally the Sunday night game, so I was going to this would have been a great matchup. It was billed at the start of the season as a great matchup between Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but listen. I'm going to this was actually a tough game for me to pick, but I'm going to pick the Cincinnati Bengals to win. I mean, watching Quinn Ewers at Texas, I don't even know how he was an NFL quarterback because he wasn't the best quarterback on his own team last year. So, which kind of made me scratch my head a lot. But I'm going to pick the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow bounces back from being shut out at home against Baltimore. I think they're going to win the game 27-17. So give me the Bengals to win and cover. The New Orleans Saints are favored by 4.5 points, taking on the Jets. And listen, Tyler Shuck has quietly played some good, inspiring football for New Orleans. I think Kellen Moore has done a really nice job coaching him up and being a key player in this league. So I'm going to pick the Saints to beat the Jets, who have basically mailed it in. Their defensive effort against Jacksonville was lacking, leading to the firing of their defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, giving the Saints to win by a score of 24-16 over the Jets. Now, the Minnesota Vikings, they are favored by 3 points on the road, taking on the New York Football Giants. And both of these teams, I believe, are eliminated from postseason contention. But I think J.J. McCarthy has looked really good in the last few weeks, and I think most especially the game last on Sunday night against Dallas, where he teed off against the Cowboys defense. So I'm gonna lay the 3 points on the Minnesota Vikings. I think they'll march into MetLife, taking on a lifeless Giants front. Although I will say Abdul Carter played a great game on Sunday against Washington, which is inspiring to see after his multiple benchings in his rookie year, which is part of the reason why I think Joe Shane is going to get fired at the end of the season. So give me the Minnesota Vikings to win and cover by a score of 30-17 over the New York Football Giants coming up on Sunday. Now, this game coming up, I believe, is the single toughest game of the week for me to pick against the spread. The Kansas City Chiefs are favored by 3 points on the road, taking on the Tennessee Titans. So basically, what I have to do here, because the earlier in the week the spread was 3.5, so I felt comfortable with KC winning by 3 here, but I basically have to pick a winner here, and I just think Kansas City, despite all their flaws, I think is a better team here. I think it's gonna be a crapshoot of a game. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs to win 17-13 over the Tennessee Titans coming up on Sunday in Nashville. Now on to 4 o'clock games. We got the Atlanta Falcons on the road as a 3-point favorite against the Arizona Cardinals. And it's crazy. The Cardinals, in each of the last 6 games that they have faced teams that are currently in playoff position, including Jacksonville, Houston, the 49ers, the Rams, the Seahawks, among other teams. So which is kind of wild to think about in that context, but I think the Cardinals are gonna put up a lot of points, and I think they're gonna beat the Atlanta Falcons coming up on Sunday. I think it's another big game for Michael Wilson. It's the home game for him, so I think it's a lock for him to have 10 catches and 100+ yards based upon previous games that have been held in the desert. So give me the Cardinals to win 28-25 over the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this was another tricky one to pick. I was back and forth on this one. We got the Denver Broncos favored by 3 points at home, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I just think Jacksonville is going from the third worst defense in DVOA this year to the sixth best in Denver. So it's definitely going to be an adjustment for them. And they both of these teams also have played relatively softer schedules in recent weeks. So and I know the Jags played the Colts where Daniel Jones got hurt, and Daniel Jones was compromised in that game, and then they faced Brady Cook and the Jets last week. But this is a much different animal. So I'm actually gonna lay the 3 points up with the Broncos. I think they win and cover. They win by a score of 27-21 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Detroit Lions are favored by 7 points at home, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, the Lions have the Lions have proved this year that they haven't been able to play up to the top teams in their competition. Say Philadelphia, say Green Bay, who they lost twice to. Say the Rams, as an example. Though they did beat Baltimore with all the injuries that they had, but I don't consider Pittsburgh on that level of competition with those elite teams in the NFC. So I think the Lions bounce back after the loss to the Rams. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to cover. I think the Pittsburgh Miami game was more of the problems with Miami than it was the issues with the Steelers. Remember, at one point of this game, it was a low scoring. It was a 3-0 Miami lead with a minute left in the first half, and then the Rams couldn't stop a nosebleed in the second half. So I'm gonna lay the 7 with the Lions. I'm gonna pick them to win 31-21 over the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up on Sunday. Now, the Houston Texans are favored by 14.5 points taking on the Raiders. Now, the Raiders got shut out by the Eagles last week, but I just don't feel like the Raiders are gonna muster much more offensively in this one. And you can make an argument the Raiders are the worst team in the NFL. I think that there's a shot that they'll wind up with the number one pick in the draft next year. So give me the Houston Texans to win and cover. They win 29-10 over the Raiders on Sunday. Now, Sunday Night Football on NBC. The Baltimore Ravens are favored by 3 points, taking on the New England Patriots in Baltimore. Baltimore's coming off a shutout victory over Cincinnati, while the Patriots are coming off a dreadful home loss to the Bills, where they had a 24-7 lead at one point in that game. So I'm going to lay the 3 points on the Ravens. I just think they're playing a more they were more inspired last week, and I don't think the Patriots again are as good as their 11-3 record indicates. So give me Baltimore 27-23 over the Patriots. And then finally, Monday Night Football, we got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Indianapolis Colts with the Niners favored by 6 points. Now, 6 points is a big number, and the Colts remind us about how good Lou Anarumo is as the defensive coordinator. So I'm going to lay the 6 with San Francisco. I think they have. I think San Francisco is the better coach, the better quarterback. I think defensively that they can hold up well. I know Robert Saleh is going to have a good game plan for Phillip Rivers now that we have some tape of him. Yeah, following his impressive return against Seattle. But I just think the Colts are too limited offensively when they don't have someone as athletic as Daniel Jones in the backfield. So give me San Francisco to win 24-17 over the Indianapolis Colts coming up on Sunday on Monday Night Football. So that's going to do it for this edition of Hooked on Sports. Thank you so very much for listening. My name is John Flynn, and saying so long. We'll be back here on the podcast next week. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and take care. So long, everybody.